Every day, a quiet little girl got on bus 47 and cried in silence. She never spoke, never smiled, just stared out the window with tears rolling down her cheeks. Then one day, the bus driver did something he'd never done before. He looked under her seat after drop-off. What he found taped beneath it made him freeze. A hidden notebook and what was written inside. It would change her life, and his, forever. Rain had a habit of tapping against the windows of bus 47 like it had something urgent to say. For 32 years, Rick Dawson, a seasoned school bus driver in the quiet town of Maple Creek, had heard every kind of weather, every kind of student, and every kind of silence. But nothing quite matched the haunting quiet that came from seat 9B, second row from the back, right side. It had been 3 weeks now. Every morning, Rick would pull up to the curb on Maple Street, where a pale yellow house with chipped shutters and an overgrown lawn stood like it was trying to disappear. From the rusty front gate emerged a little girl, no more than 9, with deep brown eyes and a pink backpack that always looked too heavy for her narrow frame. She never spoke, never smiled, never made eye contact. She simply climbed aboard, nodded, and took her place at 9B. Rick had seen shy kids before, sad ones too. But something about this girl tugged at him harder. He never got her name officially. She wasn't on the original route list. He assumed she was a new transfer. Every morning she cried softly, wiping her cheeks with the sleeve of her red hoodie, making no sound. He asked once, "Hey, sweetheart, everything okay?" She had flinched and stared at him with wide eyes like a deer caught in headlights. No response. Just silence. He hadn't pushed again. On the fourth Monday, since she'd begun riding his bus, Rick glanced at her through the overhead mirror. Her tears came again, predictable as clockwork. He noticed something new that made his stomach clench. She kept glancing under her seat, then hugging her backpack close. When she got off at the school's west gate, Rick watched her jog into the building, head low. That evening, as he swept through the bus checking for forgotten lunchboxes and pencils, he paused at seat 9B. Something compelled him to crouch and look beneath the seat. He didn't expect to find much. Maybe a sock, a crumpled worksheet, a candy wrapper. Instead, what he saw made his breath hitch. Tucked behind the metal bar beneath the seat, taped to the underside with what looked like Scotch tape, was a small yellow notebook. It had a faded unicorn on the front and was worn at the edges, like it had been held and thumbed through 1,000 times. Rick hesitated, glancing toward the door. The bus lot was empty. A whisper of wind passed through the open door. With careful fingers, he peeled the tape free and opened the notebook. "Dear Diary," the first page began in neat, wobbly handwriting. "Today, Mama cried again after she thought I was asleep. I don't like when she cries, but I know it's because Daddy isn't here anymore. I wanted to tell someone at school, but I don't have a friend yet, so I'll tell you." Rick sat back in the seat, the words weighing more than he expected. He turned the page. "The man came back today. Mama told me to hide. I don't like when she tells me that. I wish I could tell someone. Maybe if I leave this here, someone will read it." Rick's hands trembled. Who was the man? Why did she hide? Each page revealed more. Nights spent curled in a closet, a mother working double shifts, and references to a man named Travis who used to live with us before the police came. The child had found a way to tell someone, even if it was just a notebook taped under a bus seat. Rick knew then, this wasn't just a sad little girl. This was a cry for help. He snapped the notebook shut and tucked it in his glove compartment, locking it. His heart raced. The next morning, as usual, she climbed aboard and slid into 9B, her hoodie sleeves tugged over her hands. Rick didn't speak. But this time, as he glanced at her through the mirror, he made a quiet vow. "You're not alone anymore." Rick Dawson couldn't sleep that night. The notebook sat on the nightstand beside him like it had a voice of its own. He had read it cover to cover twice, each time pausing at a sentence that stuck to his chest like thorns. "I think if I disappear, no one will notice. Maybe not even Mama. I wish someone would see me." It wasn't just the words. It was the way they were written. So heartbreakingly honest, so quietly desperate. The next morning, Rick walked into the school's front office before his route even started. He placed the notebook gently in front of Mrs. Carter, the school counselor, a middle-aged woman with tired eyes and a sunflower pin on her collar. He leaned in, voice low. "You need to read this. It was hidden under a seat on my bus. Belongs to one of your students. A girl. She's scared." Mrs. Carter raised an eyebrow and opened the first page. As she read, her lips pressed into a tight line. By the third page, her hand covered her mouth. When she looked up, her voice was hoarse. "What's her name?" Rick hesitated. "I don't even know. She's not on my regular list. She gets on at Maple Street every morning. Seat 9B. She never speaks." Mrs. Carter stood, notebook in hand. "Let me pull attendance records. We'll figure this out." Within 10 minutes, they matched the pickup address with a student named Emily Torres, age 9, a recent transfer from another district. Her mother, Maria Torres, had listed a work number that was no longer in service. No father listed, no emergency contacts. "Do you think she's in danger now?" Carter asked. Rick's jaw tightened. "I don't think she'd be writing this if she wasn't." Mrs. Carter nodded grimly and made the necessary calls. Within hours, Child Protective Services and a school resource officer were involved. A decision was made. Emily would be quietly pulled aside after lunch and spoken to in a safe space. Rick spent the entire day on edge. That afternoon, when he returned to the school for his final route, Mrs. Carter approached his bus before any children boarded. "She confirmed it," she said softly. "The man, Travis, is her mother's ex-boyfriend. He's been showing up at night, sometimes inside the house. Maria works night shifts and leaves Emily alone. She's terrified." Rick clenched the steering wheel. "So what now?" "She's not going home today. CPS is placing her in emergency care for the night. Her mom is being contacted too. She may not have realized how unsafe things had gotten." Rick exhaled. Relief flooded his chest. That afternoon, for the first time, Emily didn't board the bus. But Rick knew it was for the best. 3 days later, a woman approached bus 47 in the morning rain. She was small, worn down, with streaks of gray in her dark hair and fatigue under her eyes. She looked like she hadn't slept in weeks. "You're the bus driver?" she asked, voice trembling. Rick nodded. "Yes, ma'am. I'm Maria Torres, Emily's mother. I just wanted to say..." Her voice cracked. "Thank you. Thank you for noticing her, for doing something. I didn't know how bad it had gotten." Rick didn't say anything for a moment. Then he simply said, "She's a brave girl." Maria nodded, tears in her eyes. "She's safe now. They're giving me counseling, and she's with a foster family temporarily until I can sort things out. It hurts, but I know it's right." She handed Rick a folded piece of paper. "She wrote this. Asked me to give it to you." Rick opened it slowly. The handwriting was the same. "Dear Mr. Bus Driver, thank you for finding my notebook. I think you're the first person who really saw me. I don't cry on the bus anymore. Love, Emily." Rick blinked quickly, trying to clear his eyes. He folded the note and tucked it into his shirt pocket like it was treasure. Later that week, Mrs. Carter told him something that stuck with him. Emily said she taped the notebook under the seat, hoping someone kind would sit there. She believed kindness would find it. Rick thought of that every time he drove past 9B. The seat was empty now, but not forgotten. He'd driven kids for 32 years. But that week changed him, because sometimes the quietest cries are the loudest, and sometimes a hidden notebook under a seat holds more than words. It holds a child's hope. Winter arrived early in Maple Creek. Frost kissed the bus windows each morning, and Rick Dawson, now approaching retirement, wrapped his fingers tighter around a thermos of hot coffee as he sat in bus 47's driver's seat. The students didn't notice it, but seat 9B remained untouched. No one ever chose it, and Rick never encouraged them to. In his heart, it had become sacred. Emily's seat. A few weeks after her removal from the home, Rick kept tabs through Mrs. Carter and occasional emails from the local child welfare liaison. Emily was doing well in her foster home, attending therapy and slowly opening up. Her mother, Maria, had moved to a safer apartment, taken time off from night shifts, and was going through a supervised reunification program, but the most hopeful news came one December morning. "She's ready to come back," Mrs. Carter told him with a smile. "Her mom has met all the criteria, the judge approved, and they'll be living together again in a safer neighborhood." Maria asked if Emily could ride bus 47 one last time before the transfer. She insisted. Rick's chest swelled. Of course. That Friday, the air carried the crispness of snow. Rick straightened his cap, wiped the dashboard, and double-checked the seatbelt on 9B. And then at 7:42 a.m. sharp, the familiar red hoodie appeared at the curb. Though this time, it wasn't wrapped in sorrow. Emily's posture was straighter. She clutched a snowflake-patterned backpack and looked up to meet Rick's eyes. She smiled. It was small, gentle, but unmistakable. Rick opened the door. "Morning, Emily," he said, voice warm. "Good morning, Mr. Rick," she replied quietly. The words were simple, but they landed like music. She climbed the steps slowly, paused, then turned. And instead of walking to 9B, she stepped forward to sit right behind Rick's seat. "I thought maybe I could sit up front today," she whispered. Rick blinked, nodding. "Of course, sweetheart. Wherever you like." For the rest of the ride, they didn't speak much, but she hummed softly. Some kind of tune from a children's show, he figured. And Rick. He just drove, heart full. When they arrived, Emily hesitated at the door. She turned to him again. "I wanted to leave something behind, but I didn't have paper. So, I made this." From her backpack, she pulled out a hand-drawn picture, a crayon sketch of a yellow school bus with the words, "Thank you for seeing me." Emily T. Rick took it gently. "I'll keep this forever." She stepped off the bus and joined Mrs. Carter at the door. But before heading inside, she turned and waved. Rick waved back. And just like that, Emily was gone. Years passed. Rick eventually retired. Bus 47 was reassigned. But before he handed over his keys for the last time, he walked through the rows one final time. At seat 9B, he placed a small laminated copy of Emily's picture, taped gently to the underside of the seat where her notebook once lived. No name, no explanation, just a message. "Thank you for seeing me." One spring morning 2 years later, Rick volunteered at a career day event at the local elementary school. He stood beside a police officer and a veterinarian, telling a room full of kids what it was like being a school bus driver. Halfway through, a young girl raised her hand. Her curls were longer, her voice a little stronger, but Rick recognized her instantly. "Hi," she said with a smile. "My name's Emily Torres. You were my bus driver." Rick's heart jumped. Emily walked forward, holding something behind her back. "I brought something," she said, "to show how much that bus ride meant." From behind her, she pulled out a small, hardcover notebook, brand new with a glittery unicorn on the front. "I write stories now, about kids who find heroes in ordinary places. My first story is called The Man Who Found the Notebook." The room clapped. Rick's eyes welled up. Because sometimes it isn't the teachers or doctors or firemen who save the day. Sometimes it's a quiet old man behind the wheel of bus 47 who simply looked under a seat.